So I once had a training boot camp. A student jumped up in the back of the room. He said, "Oh, come on, you expect me to believe someone's going to sell a $150,000 house for $50,000? That makes no sense." And I said, "Well, let me ask you a question, all right? Let's imagine you are the seller of this specific house, right? And you have just had a hurricane, Hurricane Francis. The year was 2004. And the hurricane has destroyed the roof of your house. FEMA has given you a trailer that's in the driveway. You cannot live in your house. There's water this high. There's tadpoles in your house, all right? And you're living in this FEMA trailer. And now you see this bandit sign, and it says, "We buy houses for cash." And you call that sign, and it's this guy named Brad. He's a wholesaler, and he agrees to buy your house for $34,000, which sounds like a good deal to you because you're getting a check from the insurance company for $45,000. And you figure at the time your house is only worth $80, so those numbers sound good to you, right? And then that wholesaler contacts me and flips that house to me for $50,000. That was the first rental that I purchased. And when I fixed up that house and I got it appraised for $163,000, right? And even I was surprised at appraisal. I thought it would be worth $120,000. And I asked the appraiser, I said, "Are you sure you have the right house?" And he said, "Yeah, why? Do you think the appraisal's high?" I said, "Well, it's a little higher than what I thought." He said, "Well, the house has a legal unit in the back with its own electric meter, and we gave that a value of $43,000, and we valued the house in the front at $120,000 for a total of $163,000. All right? That house, I landed up renting out the back unit to my handyman and then renting out the front unit to an individual, and I cash flowed, even with my hard money lender payment, $1,000 a month. So to answer the question of why would someone sell their house for such a discount for $34,000 to that wholesaler who then turned around and flipped that house to me, right? Why would someone sell that house so cheap? And the answer is because in his mind, his house was worth maybe $80,000 or $100,000. He's getting 34 and he's getting 45 from an insurance company. He gets to walk away. He doesn't have to deal with making the payment on the house. A lot of people don't know this, but if your house gets destroyed by a hurricane, do you think that you can just stop making your payment? No, you still have to make the payment every month. But you can't live there. So you've gone and rented out another house, or you're staying at Motel 6, or you're sleeping in a FEMA trailer. But meantime, every month you've got to make that payment. So this house is a headache for you. You want it gone. And that's why someone will sell a house for 30, 40, 50 cents on the dollar, right? So the concept is motivated sellers. And motivated sellers are people that are more motivated to sell their house than the average individual. So I think you would agree with me that the example that I just gave you, that individual is very, very different to Joe, who calls in and says, "I'd like to sell my house for $400,000. And Zillow says it's $400,000, and I'm not willing to take a nickel less than $400,000. Joe's not very, very motivated. Joe's just a regular seller, somebody who wants to sell a house. One of the best lessons I learned from my mentor, Ben, is deal with people who have to sell, not people who want to sell. Most sellers want to sell. In fact, out of every 20 motivated seller leads that you work with, probably 16 of them are going to be people who want to sell their house but don't have to sell their house. You want to focus on motivated sellers that have to sell their house. The question is, who has to sell their house? So I gave you one example. Hurricane damaged house, uninhabitable, they're not living in it. What are some other examples? Fire damaged house. Person has a fire, they can't live in the house, they moved out. Do they have to keep making their mortgage payment? Absolutely. But they want that house gone, right? They're probably getting a nice big check from the insurance company. They've got no emotional attachment to the house at all. In fact, the house for them is this burnt out shell that doesn't look like it's worth anything to them. It's worth land value, right? But you as an investor may be able to come in there, buy that property, and get a general contractor to come in and fix it up and turn it into something beautiful again. So that's another example, fire damage. What other examples of it? We saw a whole bunch recently in Florida. Flood damage. We just had 2 storms back to back where people have serious situations. So now I'm looking on the west coast of Florida. It's interesting because we've got no inventory, but now I'm looking and I'm seeing on the west coast of Florida, we're seeing opportunities in places like Fort Myers, in places like Cape Coral, Lehigh Acres, all these places where there was potential flood damage, right? So we spoke about hurricane, we spoke about fire, we spoke about flood. So that's physical damage to the property. The property has water damage, it has mold, it has fire damage. What other situations? Well, in central parts of the US, you've got people who get tornadoes and they damage houses, right? What other scenarios could there be? Well, let's talk, instead of property damage, let's talk about the financial situation of an individual. Let's say someone gets sick, they get disabled, they get a horrible illness, they have a stroke, they have a heart attack. They can't work anymore. They can't make their mortgage payment. It's a very, very sad situation. But do you think that the bank says, oh, we won't send that Liz Pendant's notice because you're ill? No. They send that notice and they file their foreclosure auction. That person suddenly is faced with a situation where their house is going to be sold at the courthouse in 2 weeks and they need to find somewhere to go. And when they get to that point, they realize they may not have any equity in their home. They may get nothing out of the deal. So if you as an investor come to them and say, hey, I'm willing to offer you $5,000 and I'll let you stay here for, 90 days until you can get yourself together, that might be an appealing offer for that individual, right? So someone who's facing financial hardship, lost their job, got disabled, got sick, many situations where someone has is a non-working spouse and the breadwinning spouse passes away. These are situations that become basically emergencies. And those are what we call motivated sellers. Some people would say, and I've heard this often in my trainings, will say, we're taking advantage of these people as real estate investors. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. My first deal, my first lead, I went out to the house and the lady was on dialysis. All right. And I said, we agreed on a price. I went to my mentor and said, I can't buy this house. I can't take advantage of the situation. He said, I understand. Well, guess what happened? A month or two later, he called me and he said, you see this house? You recognize the address? I said, yes. You see the investor that bought it? Take a look at what he paid. Is his offer higher or lower than yours? I said, lower. He says, now, knowing that investor, do you think he was sweet and nice and said, hey, you guys stay here for 90 days? Or do you think he just said, get the heck out? I said, well, probably told him to get the heck out. He says, so you thought you did a service to them by walking away because you didn't want to take advantage. But what you did is you actually hurt them because now someone else bought the house. He says, so remember, this is a real estate investor. And if you're watching this, I want you to remember this too, especially if you're a really empathetic individual, all right? You did not cause them to go into foreclosure. You did not cause the hurricane to happen to their house. You did not cause their house to flood. You did not cause their house to burn down. You didn't cause their disability. You didn't cause their sickness. That is not something that you did. The reality is they need to sell their house and they're in a bind financially where they need to sell it quickly. I've seen situations where someone wants to sell their house because someone was arrested and they need to make bail. I've seen situations where I had a fire damaged property where the guy was living in a motel and he ran out of money and he needed to tap the equity in his house. These are real situations and they're very sad, but understand this, that individual will sell that house. And as an investor, if you don't buy it, someone else will. So learning how to market to motivated sellers is very, very important. I teach this at my Wholesaling Real Estate Bootcamp. It's a 3-day event. I'm teaching you how to find deals and how to market to homeowners in foreclosure and how to market to people that have liens on their properties, people who have code enforcement violations, people that have inherited properties that are going through probate, all kinds of scenarios, damaged houses, right? That you can find lists of these types of individuals, you can market to them, and you can send postcards out to them and they will call you saying, hey, I would like to sell my house. You can also buy keywords on Google and have a website for search terms like need to sell my house fast, need to sell my house now. And they can come to your website, they can fill out their info, their address, their phone number, and you can call them and say, I'd like to sell my house. Are you a cash investor? Yes, I am. And you can say, great, let me come out and take a look at it tomorrow. And now you're talking to them and you're looking at it. And as an investor, your only job to know are 3 numbers. Number 1, what would this house fixed up really nicely be worth? If I took this house and I repainted it and I put new flooring, new kitchens, new bathrooms, what could I realistically sell this for? And be conservative, especially in this kind of market with prices coming down a little bit. Be very conservative. Say, I know I could definitely flip this for X. Now that you know that, the next thing you need to know is what would it cost you to fix that up, right? So I've got a fixing and flipping houses bootcamp where I spend 3 days. I even take you to Home Depot and show you the materials. I spend 3 days teaching you about repair estimates, understanding the material components and the labor components, how much you're going to pay somebody to fix the house and what it would cost to fix that house. And taking those two together, if you understand the repair estimate, if you understand what you can sell the house for, then in order to make a profit, you know how much you can offer, what we call the maximum offer price, right? So understand that there is this situation. Every day there's motivated sellers, regardless of whether the real estate market's going up, down, or sideways. Why? Because every day there's people who have fires in the house. Every day there's people who have floods in the house. Every day there's hurricanes. Every day there's people getting sick and disabled. It's sad, but it's true. So as a real estate investor, your job is to learn how to market to these motivated sellers. And when you get on the phone with them, know what to say to them. Have those scripts, all right? If you come to my training, you will see us call motivated sellers. You'll see our students call motivated sellers. So you can learn how to do this too, right? If you learn how to buy these houses, you can buy them sometimes for 40, 50 cents on the dollar. You can fix them up and you can make a lot of money. We've had fix and flips where our students have bought houses for as little as $170 and flipped them for $340,000 and made net $110,000 profit, all right? Now, not every fix and flip is going to give you that kind of return. Most of our fix and flips are more like $40,000 to $50,000, but either way, that's a lot of money. For some people, you do 2 fix and flips a year. That's more than an annual salary for many people in this country, right? So it's very lucrative to learn how to do this. I encourage you very much to learn how to get started investing in real estate. You know, my style of real estate training is not an online course where you pay $97 and you're going to make money in 30 days. My style of training is I'm teaching you a full immersion in real estate. I've got 6 live training events I'm doing. With my coaching students, I do a total of 10 live events over a 12-month period. And I cover every aspect of real estate: fixing and flipping, wholesaling, finding deals, Airbnbs, buying rentals and creating wealth, creative financing. I want you to understand how well and how much money you can make in real estate. You know, I came to the state of Florida in 2003. I didn't have anything. And I learned how to invest in real estate, and just in a few years, I had millions of dollars worth of rental properties. And I made myself a millionaire buying bank owned properties, and I want to teach you how to do the same. All right, so come to my bank owned properties and foreclosures bootcamp. Think about attending my other trainings, because you need to learn components, you need to learn how to fix and flip, you need to learn how to wholesale, you need to find motivated sellers and know how to talk to them and learn how to find deals. All right, so go ahead and visit my website, lexlevinrad.com. Click on the bootcamps tab at the top, or go ahead and click on the link below to learn more, or feel free to call my office at 561-948-2127.